From the crack of dawn to the campfire at night, whether you're in the woods, on the water, or just dreaming about your next adventure, you're in the right place. This is Tailgate Outdoors.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the debut episode of Tailgate Outdoors. My name is Dan Kasper, and I will be your guide every Saturday morning talking hunting, fishing, and the great outdoors. But with every episode, we'll have guests along the way, sharing stories, tips, and just good old-fashioned outdoors conversation, like we were sitting on the tailgate around the campfire. I don't know about you, but I grew up as a kid where every Saturday morning, instead of watching cartoons, I was watching Bill Dance Outdoors, in Realtree Outdoors, and Mossy Oaks hunting the country. So I guess you could say this is my version of that. But enough of all that. Let's get to the program. Our first guest for our first episode of Tailgate Outdoors are good friends, Adam and Aaron from No Eye Deer. They've been on our podcasts and obviously text the program and the morning show when it's football season, right? When it's football season over there. But it's been a hot minute. So like when we thought about doing this program and I made the list of guests that we had to have on, you guys were at the top. There. So I
think that means we've made it, right?
We've arrived.
You guys have arrived a long time ago before this. So we appreciate you making some time and sharing your wisdom and thoughts and outdoor talk with the rest of us.
Yeah, our pleasure.
So,
it's great to be on.
Yeah.
So anybody listening right now, maybe you've heard of No Idea or maybe not familiar and such. First of all, where have you been? But you guys have been doing this for a few years now. Kind of explain, what is No Idea and where did you get the inspiration to do this?
Basically about 4.5 years ago, we launched the No Idea YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
And we just wanted to get out and share our passion for the outdoors. So a lot of it is just storytelling of hunts and fishing, ice fishing excursions. We do a lot of product review, outdoor product review.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a way to have fun. And it really started as an outlet during COVID when we couldn't really do anything. So we took up ice fishing for the very first time and just kind of went out and we recorded our first excursion and it kind of just took off from there. We've been having fun and that's all it is. When we're going to do something outdoors, we grab the GoPro and we just go and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
So do some podcasting too. We haven't done that lately, but we just met the other night and said, hey, we need to do that this summer and get those out too. So that's what it is. No Idea YouTube channel. So when people ask us, hey, what's the best bait for? So we're just kind of like, we have no idea. No idea. We're just having fun. And usually we let other people tell us what to do.
Like, hey, you should check this out or anything from hunting, fishing to, backyard barbecue.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about that. We've done some product reviews on various smoking equipment and things like that. So it is really, we just try to be super authentic about what we do. A lot of people see the grip and grins with these trophy deer and fish and things like that. And the reality is that isn't reality.
Right.
I think that for the average Joe guy, I think we really try to connect with them. And that's really our target audience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, just kind of a couple of examples. First of all, I got to find out how's the boat coming along. It's been about over a year since I think I found that out.
Yeah. But we've gotten to the point where it's got a new transom. The motor, we turned the motor over. It runs just fine. But restoring a boat's a lot I
Yeah.
Good Lord.
It's a full-time job and we both have full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So
it's been on pause, and I understand now when people say this, I meant this to be a project. I need it out of my backyard now. So it's coming along, but for the most part, we're just kind of switching gears and getting into the fishing season. We had coming off the turkey hunt, 2 kids doubled up. We had fun there as their first turkeys. So
nice.
So,
and then the other thing I got to ask, I think the last time I was talking to you guys too, Adam, you were telling me, did you build your own smoker too? Like, that process. You guys are like hands-on stuff with that too.
I had this grand idea to build this big offset smoker, something that could handle, like a dozen pork butts, something like that. I had a buddy of mine, John, and I took it out to a place that had a plasma cutter. We got about 30% of the way done.
Yeah.
And now it's a matter of getting it bolted to a trailer and let's just say my wife is less than impressed with this stuff that is alongside of our different tanks and all that kind of
tanks
stuff.
And trailers. I think you have like 4 different tanks.
Yeah, it's getting to that point where I keep asking for a dog. I want a dog really bad. I used to pheasant hunt a lot with some Weimaraners, and I want one really bad, and it's my wife has got some collateral against me before I think about getting a dog.
So just to kind of, learn a little bit more about your background before we get to some topics at hand here too, what was it, maybe take us back to your youth. What was it that got you guys interested, in the outdoors, hunting, fishing, and all that? Was that something that was, prevalent in your family growing up, or was that something recently? What was it like maybe as a kid? Was that kind of a thing for you guys?
Yeah, I would say it was for hunting. It was our father and then Uncle George. Those two guys, they did everything together. They hunted together, and they really influenced us in our hunting. And I remember, back in the day coming down here because they would hunt the family farm outside of Fall Creek, and you just come down for the 9-day gun deer season, and then eventually. Well, once they lost access there, we just kind of started hunting up north. And then hunting, it just morphed into partridge hunting, grouse, squirrel hunting, deer hunting. And then fishing, our folks have had a place up in Hayward. And we basically spent the summers up there fishing.
Yeah, as much as we could when we weren't doing youth sports and all that kind of stuff. It was where we lived growing up in Bruce. It was where we were a half a block away from getting on county land and just walking. And we were just outside all the time. Hunting really was just deer hunting when we grew up. A little bit of the small game stuff, but small game hunting was more of an excuse just to get out and hike through the woods a little bit. Mike Hawley was another one. We'd do a lot of small game hunting with Dad in the Blue Hills. Yep. There's so much beautiful
take apples up there during the winter when they'd round up, or herd up and stuff. But it was just, up north, it's just a way of life. I mean, I'll in our culture today, remind people that, to test out for our hunter safety, which was taught by the principal at that time, we brought our 22s to school.
Oh, geez.
And then we went out back by the track, just behind the track, and we tested out shooting our 22s.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's the 80s.
Right.
I mean, it was way different back then, but this is what you did. And I think basically everybody in your class took hunter safety.
Yeah, it was.
Oh man, I miss those days like that. Yeah. So, this weekend too, obviously it's going on right now because this is Saturday morning when we're airing this, and that it is, free weekend, which is usually, first full weekend in June and such. So anybody maybe interested in the outdoors or haven't bought their fishing license, it's the good time to go out and test that too. So when, you guys mentioned kind of getting ready for fishing and that, now that turkey season's in the books and such, is it a family thing when you guys, is it a big family adventure when you guys go out and hit the waters? Is there certain types of fish that you guys target, or what's a fishing excursion like for the no idea guys?
It does tend to be a little bit more of a family ordeal, just because our style of fishing, again, we don't have some crazy Ranger boat or a Lund. 99% of our fishing happens off a pontoon and dodging lines and hooks and all that kind of stuff. And I fish a lot less now when my kids come out and do a lot more untangling. And but generally speaking, the majority of our fishing happens when we try to corral everybody up from the camper, go down the hill, get on the dock, get on the boat, and just try to get out. And that's about a 20-minute process in its own. And then as far as targeting fish, it really, for us, it's whatever's biting.
Yeah.
In the lake we're on up there, you can catch a panfish anywhere, anytime. You have to be a little more strategic if you're going to try to get size, if you're going to try to get some eaters. But otherwise, we have a ton of fun largemouth bass fishing up there.
Bass fishing. So if there's a favorite that I like to target, it's bass.
Yeah.
You put on a wacky rig and you just work the shores underneath the docks and stuff, and here we are on a pontoon with a trolling motor on the front, and we'll spend the day just trolling the shores and wacky rig and bass. We love the bass. I love fishing for walleye. I don't ever catch them, but they're it's just kind of one of those nostalgic things back in the day when we would catch them. But I still like to try to target them. But
I went through a phase where we targeted bullheads for a while too.
Yeah,
you just go out right at dusk and throw a gob of worms on, and it's so buggy though. I mean, we always said that's our excuse to smoke a Swisher Sweet was so we had to keep the bugs away.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
kind of our thing.
But it is, if you are in another boat watching the Sturgis pontoon, it probably is entertaining, because we'll have upwards to 6-7 people with lines in the water on this pontoon.
Yeah.
And grandma and grandpa just sitting there watching and laughing. So
I think, Adam, was it the last time I was talking to you and you mentioned, because we were talking about gear stuff, and did you mention like sometimes, TV on the boat, and you were talking about the Jackal, which I got one because of talking to you.
Yeah, the Jackal.
Before we get into this, Adam is a Bennington snob now.
Oh,
okay. They bought a Bennington. So
yeah, we went, the first boat my wife and I bought was it was kind of an impulse buy, and we went in thinking, she wanted a boat, and I was like, yeah, let's go. We're looking at Lunds and Rangers and stuff like that, and they're so much money for only like rated for 4 or 5 people. We're like, we want more people. So then 2 boats later, we have a pontoon. It is the fishing model. It's a Bennington fishing model, but we don't, that is our leisure. There's a beautiful spot though where we ratchet strap down a TV and we plug everything in. We got our streaming services, and you get your hotspot, and we're out on Dell's Pond on the pontoon watching a Packer game.
Yeah,
perfect.
It is so cool.
Yeah.
So we haven't fished yet, but Aaron and I have some plans this summer.
Yes,
for some content, or we're 2 guys with a live scope on a Bennington fishing.
That's awesome.
Lake Altoona. Who knows? I don't know.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier too, do you guys have like a certain way when you catch your limit or you're having a fish fry and that, do you guys always prepare it a certain way? Is there a certain kind that you always like to target? Because everybody's kind of like got some go-to recipes, and I know you guys are big into, obviously the cooking part of it too. Or is it just, are you like shore lunching it, or do you have a secret recipe?
Mostly, I've gotten addicted to the catch and cook stuff that you can pick up at Shields and pretty much anywhere. And they have a spicy one. But yeah, I've actually, I know the bass people will not like this, but the kids like to keep bass from the ice, that we catch in the wintertime, and they actually taste really good. It's a nice piece of meat. Yeah, but during the summertime, I don't really catch them to keep them. The kids do that.
Yeah.
And then grandpa cleans them. But yeah, we just clean them up, and then we'll grab a turkey fryer.
Yeah, it's pretty much just deep frying everything.
Yep.
Yeah,
deep fry.
Pretty simple. Got a turkey fryer. Get a nice process going where somebody's shaking them in the batter shaker and then bringing them out. But recipe wise, I'm with you. I mean, shore lunch. We've tried some of the spicy Cajun stuff. It's all really good. I mean, it's and that's what I think. Part of it is just the deep fry that makes it so good. But the key there, in my opinion, is you got to do about 2 or 3 batches of fish, then throw your French fries in, and then finish with fish again.
Yeah. And the kids, a special treat for the kids is when they, grandma and grandpa make it for breakfast. They'll have eggs and fish for breakfast. They love that.
That's awesome.
So I'm just like,
we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back right after these words. So with that too, with fishing, and I know just kind of transitioning into another topic here, they had the spring hearing, Q&A where they put out input for a bunch of people to be able to submit their opinions and such. And, there's a bunch on there. Everybody can go online and look at, and it's nothing official, just getting the public's opinion on various topics and such. And, you could look at certain counties and such. And, since we're talking fishing wise, I noticed, a few of them too, we're talking about, the limits for panfish and kind of lowering that. What's your guys' thoughts on something like that? Lowering the limits, because it's over 50 on some of, is it 52? Yeah. I think on some bodies of water in that, daily limit, which seems like a lot for, maybe depending on the person or that, but what were some of the other thoughts? I know there was like, one of them I think was the non-edible parts of a deer.
Yeah,
that one was out there too. So
which I saw that part, because there's and it looks like they wanted to do that so that it would encourage or help hunters who go really deep, and don't want to drag. They're discouraged because they got to drag the whole deer, but now they can keep all the unedible parts of the carcass in the woods. So
I think the biggest one, and I know they've already had that in place in a lot of Western states. So in a lot of ways in Wisconsin, the way a lot of this works is we're just kind of a little bit behind other states that are maybe a little more advanced in their conservation practices. So I think we're just kind of catching up to it. It makes sense. Especially for reasons like that. But again, we're falling in line with a lot of what other states already practice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I went to the listening session last year, and it was really eye-opening. And I would encourage anybody who wants to get in part or take part and be a part of the conservation here in Wisconsin to do that. I think what I like is how they do it and to tell people, like, remember, this is regional. Mm-hmm. We don't want people in northern Wisconsin telling the eastern part of the state what they can and can't do on their, know, on their waters. But so primarily speaking up here, I like it because, again, just speaking to the lake we grew up on, there was a time where I think it was like 50, and people would come up from other states, not to point anybody out. This is a family friend. They would, people would come in. That was when turnover was constant. You'd have new campers, new people at the cabins every single week, and they would go out, fill a cooler, come in, clean it, go back out, fill a cooler. And it really, when I think about the 40 years I've been on that lake, it really took its toll. Mm-hmm. And so now I think it's only 10. They knocked 10. It down. I think they knocked it down to like 25, and then they finally knocked it down to 10.
Possession is double. Right? Double your daily bag for possession on our lake.
Yeah. So we're kind of starting to see larger panfish and a lot more fish just in general. So I'm all for it. I don't know.
The challenge just becomes in that possession limit. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know a lot of law-abiding or rule-abiding fishermen who still, though, have a freezer full of fish fillets.
Yeah.
And that's where it's a heck of a lot easier to roll up on a boat and say, hey, let me see your live well, or let me see what you have, rather than you can't go knock on a door and just say, hey, let me check out your freezer. Yeah. Right. It's going to be a lot more challenging for the DNR or sheriffs to, monitor and police that. So whether it's 10 or 50, the people that are going to stock their freezers are going to stock their freezers. Mm-hmm. And that I think becomes the bigger issue at hand. Mm-hmm. And that's just a challenge in its own that I don't know how you get around.
Right.
I mean, for me, it's like, we catch, say 2 of us hit our limit. That's 20 fish. That's 40 fillets.
Right.
That's enough. Mm-hmm. And that's enough to bring friends over and eat.
We generally don't. We typically, and I hope more people get, like, we truly do. If we don't have plans for a fish fry, we're going to just release them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If we have plans, I don't know the last time we've frozen fish. Right. Maybe in the event that we have to, it's a Saturday and we're heading home Sunday morning and we got to freeze them to keep them. But otherwise it's try to eat them fresh. They're just so much better that way too.
Right.
But your idea of, catch your limit, but then go home and you have a freezer of 1,000 fillets. It's kind of like, wow.
Right.
What's the point? So, that's nice. I feel like in there, they're really trying to figure out how to bring back the walleye in Wisconsin. It's almost like they want Wisconsin to be like Canada 2.0 again. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know how that's going to work. I know it's confusing. I struggle because every lake has a different slot.
Yes.
And so forth. It's almost like, can we just have one blanket slot system?
Yep.
And so forth. But the other thing too is they're trying really hard on the lake we're on to bring back the walleye population to the point where they drew down the lake 2 or 3 years ago to try to kill off some of the vegetation that's preventing walleye from spawning. And then they stock it with the fingerlings, and the DNR just came back. I think it was last year or a year and a half ago with a report just saying that the lake can no longer sustain what they want for walleye like it used to. So, which kind of sucks, but
also, as we Aaron and I just chatted about this last night, if you drive up to that lake now versus even just 15 or 20 years ago, you hardly even saw a water skier or any type of recreational type of stuff. There was nobody beaching up. There was a specific spot on this lake where you'd 25 years ago, you'd limit out in walleye within a half hour or so. Wow. Now you drive back to that spot and 20 feet away is 7 or 8 boats all beached up.
Yeah.
On the shoreline. And I'd be so interested to see, I told Aaron, it'd be so interesting to see just the subsurface of that water, what everything underwater looked like 20, 30 years ago versus what it looks like now. And and that's not a dig on wake boats or jet boats or anything like that. That's just a pure traffic. How many more people are up there and how many more recreational boats. So it's just getting more traffic. And it's just inherently going to be decimating to certain aspects of what the fish use.
And it looked like the a majority of those listening sessions, the topics advanced, right? With a majority of the public support. What was fascinating was there was a lot of tension though at the hearing I went to over the wake surf boats.
Oh, really?
And lakes and lake associations. And anglers being really upset with, wake boats going 100 yards away from their dock, 100 yards away from somebody fishing, and the size of that wake that's cast. And so that got a little contentious, because you had a group of people who represent the wake surf population, and then you had lake home or cabin owners and fishermen or anglers that were just like, you could see them, and you see reason, like everything we have access to, there's people who are abusing it. There's people that follow the laws and stay away. But it only takes one to ruin it for everybody.
Exactly.
And I think one final thing to kind of point out about those wake boats and things like that, is we see it. Yes. A fisherman sitting there and it's rocking the boat because these guys are wake surfing really close by, or we see the damage. It's really easy to see the damage that they potentially cause on the shoreline. But even without that, there's steps we can take. But what people don't realize is what it does subsurface all the way down to about 15 feet, where they've done studies. They have cameras, and a wake boat just doing what a wake boat is designed to do can absolutely destroy everything down to 15 feet. So it's not just about space to the sides of the boat. It's also how deep in those waters do we need to be?
Is there, I know this is kind of maybe a blanket question and such, since we're talking about rule stuff, was there always something, or maybe something current or whatever the case may be, that, if you were like a DNR czar or whatever we want to call outdoor czar, was there always like a rule that you would like adjusted, changed, a guideline or anything like that? Is there something like, if you had this magical pen or power or whatever to adjust something, is there always something that's just kind of bothered you that you would like to see changed?
Out of state licenses.
Yeah.
I think the cost of an out of state license is, and I know from a state economy, it's easy to say, yep, it's attractive. Let's make Wisconsin friendly for out of staters to come in. But we have to be, and I know there's data out there where if not one of the cheapest in regards to ratio of how much the percentage increase from a resident license to an out of state license has to be one of the lowest in the country. So that would be the number one thing, for two reasons. Number one, generating revenue, so that we can continue to keep affordable access for residents. But I'll be frank, to distract or to deter someone just from coming up and decimating. I mean, we see it from deer hunting where it's just droves of people with out of state license plates, and they're all working together, and they don't hunt in their home state. Right. They come over here.
Over here.
So it's,
and let's just say their deer, a lot of their deer can fit on the back of a
yes, they're not practicing any quality deer management by any means. And it's one of those deals where, again, that's probably more the barstool biologist in me talking, as we've talked about before, but that would be my one magical one.
For me, maybe it's not so much something to change, but to keep an eye on, is just our access to the land that we as a public own, that we own. That's still, I think that's one of the biggest issues to why we're seeing the decrease in hunters and so forth, is just access, and we just saw it play out where I think our federal government had some land in, where was that? Utah or someplace out, they had it on the chop block to, to sell and so forth. But these are our lands, and we need to protect those so that everybody has fair access to either hunt, fish, and enjoy the outdoors. So again, for me, not really tweak, but kind of like, we need to pay attention to that stuff.
Right. I like that too. Quick break, and we'll be right back. Before we move to the next main topic at hand, because, I haven't told you guys this part yet, but you're going to be in the first 2 episodes of this show. So our interview is going to be in the first 2. So you're going to be the first 2 weeks. So if we don't get good ratings, I'm blaming you guys on this one. So, just kidding.
All right. Let's go.
So the final segment for the first episode, favorite hunting or fishing memory to date. Could be from when you were a kid to an adult, as a dad, as a parent, or is there one that always kind of sticks in your mind when you think about it?
I know it's going to be replaced soon. My kids are just getting a little bit more and more into hunting and fishing. My oldest recently did hunter safety with Aaron's kids too, and nothing crazy there. But I will just never forget. There's a hunt that we had up in Exland back home. We never shot or had even the opportunity to harvest trophy type animals where we lived, just more or less because of access. But there was a spot of land, just probably a 80-acre wooded spot that we, every single 6:30 opening day, Aaron and I would walk it to my dad. And about the 4th year we did this, the neighbors were also driving their lot next to him, and we just kind of hunkered down and we heard Dad shoot. Again, before cell phones, before radios, or we didn't use radios. It was like, okay, this is good. But we've been through this before. It might be a doe, might be a basket 8 sitting out there, and we walk out, and my dad is just grinning. You can see this big bodied deer, but he's purposely standing in front of it so we couldn't see how big it was. I'm like, Dad, is it big? He goes, no, it's not that big. It's not that. And we come around, and it's this beautiful 10-pointer.
Oh, man.
I mean, the biggest thing that anybody in our family has harvested. So just seeing Dad's emotions that day absolutely stuck and hit with me. And I think I was only, I'm 41 now. I think I was only 12, 13 when that happened. I mean, it was an absolutely epic moment that ironically didn't involve me harvesting anything. I haven't even come close to something like that. But and then the very next year, he harvests a fork, 4 points with a 20-inch inside spread.
No kidding.
That one is very close, but because then it kind of became like we're expecting to get some monster deer every year.
Right.
Yeah, it was a 4-point deer with a 20-inch inside spread.
Wow.
And we didn't think anything of it. We cut the antlers off until a guy who's a taxidermist up in Bruce said,
Gunner's taxidermy,
yeah, that might be a state record. And so we checked it out. It wasn't. It was close, but he had an extra cape. He's like, I got to mount this for you guys. So
yeah, no kidding. That's awesome.
Yeah. For me though, it's changed now. Just because my kids are starting to harvest deer. My oldest son now, just he's been able to get a couple bucks now and just see how he's really embraced it, to see how my kids and his daughter, how they're embracing the outdoors, the hunting and fishing. So those are the memories for me right now. Just those immediate memories of watching my kids do that.
Absolutely. And that is going to do it for us on the first episode of Tailgate Outdoors. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Tailgate Outdoors podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And it's also available with the Man Cave podcast. Next week, we continue our conversation with Adam and Aaron from No Eye Deer. Be safe and enjoy the great outdoors.